Namaste. Hi there, my name is Stuart and welcome to our instructional DVD on Vinyasa Yoga Level 1. Through this DVD we aim to offer simple guidelines on how to approach and instruct a Vinyasa Yoga class. Vinyasa Yoga itself is a strong dynamic practice that can often be identified by the fusion of breath with movement, providing the practitioner with a greater awareness of body and self. Through the maintenance of a regular practice, one will work on refining three primary pillars. The first pillar being your breath, otherwise known as Ujjayi breathing. Your second pillar is your fixed gaze, otherwise known as your drishti, and your third and final pillar are your energetic locks, otherwise known as your bandhas. So let's have a closer look at those. The first pillar we're going to look at is the breath. The type of breath that we use in the Vinyasa practice is the Ujjayi breathing, otherwise known as the victorious breath or the ocean breath, due to the sound that it makes once obtained. To obtain the Ujjayi breath, one must create a subtle constriction at the beginning of your throat muscles, and this can be done by drawing the chin directly backwards in towards your throat, creating a filter or lock known as a Jalandhara Bandha throat lock. This filter helps to effectively heat the breath and allow it to permeate deeper in towards the muscles and bodily organs. The breath itself is of audible nature and slightly textured, creating an expansive feeling of breath as though it was wind blowing through a hollow reed. It is important to acknowledge that the Vinyasa practice is defined by the breath. So whether you are a beginner or an advanced student, it's important to keep a tab on the breath and make sure that you can keep it consistent throughout the practice. The second pillar we're going to look at is your drishti or your fixed gaze. Your drishti or fixed gaze is used throughout the practice. Every single posture has its own gaze point. However, to keep it simple in the beginning, focus on becoming conscious of the midline of the body, avoiding the eyes from wandering all over the room. When the eyes are wandering, it's a sure sign that the mind is beginning to wander. And when the mind wanders, you lose body awareness and receptivity within the body. So focus on allowing your gaze to be steady to encourage a still mind. The drishti will enhance the experience of a moving meditation. The third pillar are your bandhas or energetic locks. The first energetic lock we're going to look at is your Mula Bandha, otherwise known as your root lock. The root lock is located in the perineum muscle for the males and the cervix for the females, and is drawn up on both your inhales and your exhales throughout the whole practice. In the beginning, to keep it simple though, focus on just engaging a lift subtly on the pelvic floor until one is able to isolate that specific muscle through your practice. The second bandha we're going to look at is your Uddiyana Bandha, otherwise known as your navel lock. Now the navel lock can be found about 4 finger widths below your belly button. This is where you find the stem of your navel. On your exhales, focus on drawing in the stem of the navel, or in the beginning just the lower abdominal muscles. Draw them in and up as you take your exhale. By drawing this inward and upward motion, you're also going to be engaging the pool of your Mula Bandha root lock. So these two work together as a partnership. Focus on inhale drawing up the Mula Bandha and exhale drawing in and up on your Uddiyana Bandha. Remember, it's a subtle connection known as a psychic lock, so more of an energetic awareness than a forced physical contraction. If you feel that you're forcing it too hard and you find it rather straining, then focus on relaxing your effort and making it more subtle in your approach. The third bandha we're going to look at is your Jalandhara bandha or throat lock. This can be obtained by tucking the chin directly back into the throat as you would when breathing Ujjayi breath. This creates a subtle trapdoor within the throat to prevent the heat built up in the belly from entering the head. This will help the practitioner to maintain a cool and calm mental approach to their practice. As much as these three pillars are an integral part of your practice, they can only be refined over time. So approach them with patience, one step at a time, starting off infusing the breath with the movements. Once you feel that you manage that well, move on to using your fixed gaze, and eventually move on to your energetic locks.
For Kapalbhati, the breath of fire. Using sharp exhales through the nose to contract the lower abdominal muscles, the inhales should become effortless as the lower abdominals are released. This exercise stimulates circulation as well as awakening the respiratory system. It's a great strengthening exercise for the core and heart muscles. Remember to keep the chin just a little bit tucked into the throat and the shoulders relaxed and still. Slowly make your way up to a standing position, Tadasana, standing mountain posture. For sun salutation A, take a deep inhale, raising the palms to come together above your head. Draw length through the body and relax your shoulders down and towards your hips. Become aware of the feet rooted firmly into the ground. On an exhale, draw the lower abdominals in and fold the upper body down to the floor. Lift and spread the shoulders and begin to ground through the balls of the feet as you lift the sit bones slowly to lengthen the hamstrings and lower back. Keep the upper body relaxed. For halfway lift, inhale, lift up onto your fingertips, lengthening the front spine and relax the back of the neck, keeping it nice and smooth. For Chataranga Dandasana, inhale, flatten the palms below your shoulders and exhale, step or jump back from a high push-up, slowly lowering to a low push-up, keeping the lower abdominals lifted and the elbows drawn in. For upward facing dog, inhale forward over the top of the feet, then lift the chest with the palms flattening downwards. An important observation is to make sure that the lower back remains lengthened. For downward facing dog, the great leveler of the body, this posture at first can feel very challenging. Maintain a deep connection to the breath and relax the facial features with the gaze remaining steady between the legs. Your hands should be shoulder width apart with your feet as wide as your hips. At the end of your exhale, begin to bend your knees, drawing the weight into the palms, and inhale, step or jump forward and up between the hands, lifting the chest into halfway lift. Exhale, fold and relax the head fully. Padding the feet down, inhale, float the palms up with the shoulders remaining relaxed, and exhale, let the hands sink down the middle of the body. Take a breath. For the second round with the flow, inhale, float the palms together. Exhale, fold with the weight in the balls of your feet. Inhale, lengthen from the lower belly through the solar plexus and palms flat as you step or jump back slowly to a low plank. Inhale, roll up, head up last, stretching the top of your ankles, and as you exhale, keep your heels aligned to draw activity in towards your core. For the modification, simply begin to bend the knees to get the fingertips grounded. Keeping the knees bent, inhale, lengthen through your front spine, then placing the palms flat as you step 1 foot at a time back into Chaturanga with the knees grounded. Inhale, keep the knees grounded, lift the chest, and exhale, tuck the chin with the knees remaining grounded, tuck your toes under to draw up into the lower belly. In downward dog, make sure you pad in the palms into the mat as though they were pushing into patti. Allow the heels to be aligned and keep the length in the spine by allowing the crown of the head to come towards the space between the thumbs. Taking your last exhale, bend the knees. Inhale, hop forward, re-lengthening the front spine, and exhale, fold and relax into a recovery forward bend. Floating the palms up, and exhale, complete the posture with the hands down the middle of the body. For Sun Salutation B, begin to bend the knees, fingertips ground. Inhale with the knees bent, tuck the tailbone and bring the palms together. Keeping the knees bent, relax the shoulders and allow the weight to be in the heels. Taking your last inhale, and as you exhale, begin to fold down the posture, straightening the legs once the fingertips become grounded. Re-lengthen the spine into halfway lift as you inhale, palms flatten, and then stepping or jumping for Chaturanga on your exhale, elbows into the ribs. Inhale, upward dog, lift your pelvic floor to lengthen lower spine, and exhale back into down. For warrior sequence, taking a deep inhale here, exhale, step the right foot back. Make sure the back heel is at a good 45-degree angle to encourage the left hip to be able to rotate forward. Bring your palms together above your head, relax your shoulders, and steady the gaze towards your thumbs. Work the weight into both of your heels to draw strength into the legs. As you open to Warrior 2 on your exhale, make sure the back foot now becomes parallel to the back of the mat for the hip to rotate in the opposite direction. Tuck your tailbone, engage in your hip girdle, and sink deeper with the shoulders remaining relaxed. Your gaze is forward as you take your last inhale and drift into Warrior 3 on your exhale, engaging your pelvic floor to maintain a lengthened front spine. Lengthen your limbs and relax your shoulders. Taking an inhale for Chaturanga as you exhale. Inhale, stretch over the top of the feet, lift your pelvic floor, lengthen the chest up, and exhale, draw up into the lower belly for down. On the opposite side, taking an exhale, step the left foot forward, ground the back heel. Inhale, floating the arms up as you sink the shoulders and the hips down in transition. Steadying your gaze to focus the mind. Taking your last deep inhale, work the heels into the ground. And on your exhale, slowly begin to open with the tailbone tucking into Warrior 2. The arms are shoulder height, active, and the shoulders, however, remaining nice and relaxed and neutral. Sink a little bit deeper if you can, and keep the left knee bending to 90. Working to Warrior 3, steady your gaze as though you were balancing on a tightrope, becoming conscious of the midline of the body. Taking your last deep inhale, bring your palms together to center, and exhale for Chaturanga Dandasana. Inhale, head up late into upward dog, lifting the solar plexus, shoulders back and down, and exhale, draw up from your lower belly back into down. Steady your gaze and take a few deep breaths. When jumping forward, bend the knees onto the tiptoes and inhale, push into the palms to step or jump forward and up, lifting the chest. Exhale, relax it all down to the earth. Bending the knees once again, knees push together, floating the palms up. And then exhale, straighten the legs and relax back into Tadasana, standing mountain. For the second set with the flow. Taking an inhale, bending the knees with the tailbone tucked. Aim to draw the chest backwards and push the knees together. Folding forward and down as you exhale. Lift the sit bones and inhale, lift up onto the fingertips to lengthen the spine. For Chaturanga, make sure that you keep the elbows into the ribs to protect your shoulder joints. Now rolling over the top of the feet to lift your chest, extend your toes backwards and raise your head late, tucking the chin immediately to come back into downward facing dog. Note that the hands remain as wide as the torso as well as the feet. For Warrior 1 on the right side to begin, pad the feet down, inhale, float up, feel as though the legs are doing most of the work for you, and exhale immediately, tucking the tailbone as you flatten the body to Warrior 2. Taking a deep inhale, assert the weight into the front foot, rooting it like a tree, and lengthen through the body to Warrior 3. Palms in prayer as you inhale, and Chaturanga slowly down as you exhale. Inhale, draw up on your pelvic floor to lengthen from the base of the spine up, and exhale, tuck the chin again immediately all the way back into down. Taking an inhale, and then exhale, step the left foot to the space between the hands. Heels are aligned with each other. As you inhale, float the arms up slowly, and exhale, gracefully open to Warrior 2. Engage your lower abdominals. As you inhale, look forward, and exhale, take your time to find your balance, asserting the rooted left foot into the ground, and lengthen through the limbs and spine. Take an inhale, Chaturanga, as you exhale. Inhale, upward facing dog, roll the shoulders back and down to lift your solar plexus, and exhale, draw from the lower belly back into down. Observe that the two base points being the heels and the palms pushing down help to engage a lift of the lower abdominal muscles, the 3 points of your triangle posture. Now taking your last deep inhale. At the very end of the exhale on empty lungs, bend the knees, and inhale, hop or step between the hands, lengthening through the front spine, and exhale, relax it all to the crown of the head. Bending the knees, weight in the heels as you inhale, float the arms up, sinking the shoulders in transition, and exhale, standing mountain pose, Tadasana. For standing forward bend, Padottanasana. Separate the feet as wide as the hips, with the hands on the hips, take an inhale, and exhale, lengthen the spine down, interlacing middle index and thumb around the big toe. Halfway lift as you inhale to re-lengthen the spine out of the waist, and bend the elbows to the sides of the mat as you exhale, folding the gaze between the legs. For a modification, simply again bend the knees and grab the hands onto the ankles. Inhale, halfway lift, and exhale again, keeping the elbows bent to the sides of the mat. When in Padottanasana, allow the weight to roll forward into the balls of the feet, engaging the sit bones lifted up to the ceiling. Feel as though the lower abdominals can draw in, and then inhale, pad the feet down as you raise through the body with the fingertips touching lightly for Prana Mudra, grounding the effort back down into the feet as you exhale. Bring the feet back together. For the Vinyasa, raise the arms so the palms come together and exhale, fold it all down. The Vinyasa is used to release any tension or hold from the previous postures by lengthening the spine and reopening the body. Through the use of Vinyasas, one is able to come back into a neutral space in preparation for the next pose. From upward dog, tuck the chin immediately and exhale the lower abdominals up into downward dog. Triangle A. Trikonasana A. Taking a deep inhale. Exhale, step the right foot forward, straighten the legs immediately, and float the arms parallel to the floor. As you exhale, pivot the upper body so the back of the right hand comes to the inside of your right leg. Observe that the spine is working parallel to the floor, and the crown of your head is an even extension of your tailbone. Inhale, raise up. As you exhale, bend the knee for extended side angle. Taking an inhale, and exhale, pivot the right fingertips lightly onto the floor. For a modification, simply bend the right elbow onto the top of your right thigh. Note that there's a flat line on the outside flank of the body. Allowing the left hip to drop, but never collapsing, because you're keeping the weight firmly fixed into the heels of both feet. Inhale, come up with the hips staying low, and for a revolving extended side angle, place the left elbow to the outside of the right thigh, left hand to the floor, and the right fingertips extend up. To stabilize the posture, work the left heel backwards to strengthen the left thigh, and steady your gaze towards the right fingertips. To release, inhale, float up, palms come together. For a Vinyasa through Chataranga Dandasana, exhale from a high to a low plank. Inhale, re-lengthen the spine, lifting and inflating the chest like a hot air balloon, and exhale, lift the lower belly back into down. For the opposite side, begin to step the left foot to the space between the hands, grounding the back heel with the back foot making sure it is at a parallel angle with the back of your mat. Again, exhale, pivot the back of the left hand to the inside of the left leg and observe that the body is flat, as though it could slide easily into a toaster. Work on tucking the tailbone to engage the lower abdominal muscles. Breathe and relax. Inhale, coming up. Exhale, bend the left knee. Take an inhale, look at backhand, and exhale, pivot left fingertips down for extended side angle. Relax the shoulders back into the hips and work the weight from the front heel into the back heel and vice versa. Taking your last exhale, push the heels down. For revolving extended side angle, taking a deep inhale. Now note that the back heel rotates off of the ground to encourage the right hip to rotate forward, enabling you to take the right elbow to the outside of your left thigh. Ground the bottom hand and extend up lightly through the left fingertips. For the modification, simply bend the right knee onto the ground and keep the palms in prayer. As you spend more time here, begin to assert the back heel backwards and allow the weight to be present in the left heel with the left knee directly above that heel. Breathe deeply and relax your shoulders. To release the posture, pad the heels down as you inhale, bring the palms into prayer to center and go through your Vinyasa for Chataranga Dandasana all the way back into downward facing dog. In downward dog, you want to begin to work the heels firmly into the ground to encourage the weight to draw up into the core and slowly out of the shoulders. Naturally, the weight will want to drop in the shoulders, so working the weight backwards is a good way to keep the upper body well and relaxed. Inhale, raise the chest up into halfway lift onto the fingertips. Exhale, unravel the spine down to the floor. Floating up the ladder of the body from feet to fingertips. Inhale, look at the thumbs, and exhale, release the hands down the center to relax back into Tadasana. Carrying on with the triangle sequence, step to the side of your mat with the big toes and heels stacked together as though the legs were zipped up. Take an exhale, ground the body weight into the feet, and on your inhale, raise the palms to come together above your head. As you exhale, draw in on the lower abdominals and step the left foot out into about a leg's distance between the feet. Hands are shoulder height as you take a deep inhale for Prasarita Padottanasana. Exhale with the long front spine, keeping the chin lifted, and interlace the middle index and thumb around the big toe. Inhale, lift the front chest with the weight dominant in the balls of the feet and drop your head on your exhale as you gaze between the legs. Note that the weight is working firmly into the balls of the feet to encourage the sit bones to lift. For a modification, simply again bend the knees and grab on towards your ankles. Drop your head, lengthen the spine on an inhale, and relax into that length of the spine on your exhale. Note that the elbows are bending to the sides of the mat to encourage the upper back and shoulders to remain nice and open. On your inhale, pad the balls of the feet down to float the body up, raising the fingertips slowly above your head. Remember to keep your shoulders dropped and open. Exhale, feel the resistance of the air against the fingertips as you relax the effort back down into the soles of your feet. Taking the heels slightly in as you inhale, float the palms to come together, and slowly keeping the shoulders relaxed, begin to press the palms together and sink down into Ashwatta, the horse stance. Your feet are rooted, the knees rotate slightly open, and the tailbone remains slightly tucked for the lower back to remain flat. Breathe into the lower belly and find your solace by following the breath deep into the body. Exhale, release the hands. Padding the feet down, inhale, float up with the legs beginning to straighten. Allow the fingertips again to touch lightly as you exhale down for Prana Mudra. For Prasarita Padottanasana C, turn the toes in so the outside blades of the feet become parallel. Raising the arms to the shoulders, exhale, interlace the fingers. Inhale, push into the feet to lengthen the spine up to the crown of the head, and exhale, lengthen forward and down. Note that the weight stays in the balls of the feet in transition towards dropping the head. The arms freely fall over the body and the gaze is dropped between the legs. Keeping the balls of the feet padded firmly into the ground, contract your thighs and lift and separate the buttocks to the ceiling. The legs work to a 90-degree angle to the floor, working strongly so the upper body and spine can truly relax. To release this posture, Release the hands onto the floor and inhale, float up from the feet, padding down all the way up the ladder of the body. On your inhale, fingertips touch at the end, and exhale, let all of your efforts float back down into the soles of the feet once again. Inhale, draw up on the pelvic floor to bring the feet together, touch the fingers for Prana Mudra, and exhale, complete the sequence with the arms relaxing down the side of the body. Rotate to face the front once again. For the standing balancing sequence, pad the feet down and inhale, lengthen up the nucleus of the body, and exhale, fold all the way forward and down for your Vinyasa. For your Vinyasa, be certain to keep the fingertips grounded and the feet rooted. Attempt to do it in a very graceful manner, as though you had a liquidy spine. Inhale, upward dog, lifting and inflating the chest, and feel as though you can roll over the big toes. Keeping the heels aligned will help to support the core. Taking an inhale, work the heels to the ground, contracting your thighs without locking the knees. Exhale, step the right foot lightly to the space between the hand. Inhale, lift up from the thigh into the lower belly, lengthening your front spine, and observe that the chest remains higher than the hips. On an exhale, slowly begin to transition with the right hand working down towards the floor ahead of your right toes. This is a tricky balancing posture, so observe that the right foot is firmly rooted, your lower abdominals are engaged, and the fingertip can stay grounded for as long as necessary. Taking an inhale, and then slow transition for revolving triangle on your exhale, placing the left fingertips down, drawing up on your lower belly muscles and raising the right fingertips up. Steady the gaze eventually to come upwards towards the right thumb. However, this can be tricky, so keeping the gaze on the ground set like a laser beam is perfectly fine. Taking your last deep inhale, slowly transition so the palms can come back together in prayer, and then step or jump back for Chataranga to reopen the body and prepare for the opposite side. Now take another deep inhale. As you exhale, step the left foot forward and inhale, lift from the foot, padding down through the legs to engage your lower abdominals. Extend the body parallel to the floor. As you take an inhale, lengthen the body, and then on a slow transition, exhale, place the left fingertips onto the floor. Ground the left fingertips and begin to rotate the right hip open to stack on top of the left. To maintain a strong balance, keep the standing foot rooted. Draw up on the lower belly muscles with your gaze steady and maintaining a nice long deep breath. For your transition into Parivrtta Adho Chandrasana, slowly place the right fingertips down and lift the left fingertips up, maintaining a core engagement. Steady your gaze and breathe deeply. Slowly releasing the posture, place the palms together in prayer to center and go through your Vinyasa Chaturanga Dandasana. Coming back into downward dog can often help to settle the nervous system and allow yourself to connect back into the breath. To jump through onto the bum for the floor sequence, slowly begin to bend the knees on your exhale, work the weight firmly into the palms and inhale, lift high up into the lower belly as you work your way onto your bum. A modification is to bend the knees and jump behind the arms. Coming into your floor sequence, your first posture is the seated upright pose, Dandasana. Placing the palms next to the hips, begin to pad the sit bones into the floor to engage your lower abdominals and lengthen from the lower spine all the way up to the crown of your head. Gaze to the big toes, and on an exhale, slowly come forward to interlace middle index and thumb around big toe. For the modification, bend the knees, grabbing forward onto the shins or the ankles, encouraging space in the lower spine. Note that the elbows are bent out to the side to draw a flat chest on towards your thighs. Your gaze is towards your big toes, maintaining length in the front spine to balance out the length in the back spine. For Purvottanasana, the tabletop, place the palms 2 hands length behind the hips and lift the hips with the balls of the feet padded down. The modification is to separate the feet hip width apart, keeping the knees bent as you work on lifting and pushing into the heels and palms. Roll the gaze back to into the wall behind you and allow the shoulders to roll over the front of the body. Keep the weight working to the balls of the feet and slowly lower the buttocks down to release. For your jump back, flatten the palms, cross your shins, inhale, lift up into the core and jump back into Chaturanga. Go through your upward dog, lifting the head up late and tuck the chin immediately, looking into the space between the legs for downward dog. For the modification, cross the legs, place the palms ahead of you and then step back into Chaturanga. Keeping the knees on the ground, inhale, upward dog and exhale, tucking the toes to lengthen up into the lower spine as you come back into down dog. Jumping through once again, bend the knees and jump through onto your bum. For the boat pose, Navasana. The modification for the boat pose is to keep the heels on the ground for a moment, keeping the knees bent, raise the legs up with the weight in the sit bones. For the full Navasana boat pose, keep the toes below the eye line, the chest lifted and the weight rolling into the sit bones. This should encourage a flat lower spine. To jump back, taking a deep inhale, plant the palms firmly into the mat as you exhale, lift up and jump for Chaturanga. Inhale, re-lengthen the spine into upward dog and exhale, soften your gaze between the legs for down. For the backward bend sequence, work your way into a high push-up position as you slowly lower yourself onto the floor. For the first posture of the backward bend sequence, Bhujangasana, the cobra pose. Place the elbows underneath your shoulders with the forearms remaining parallel, and as you inhale, draw the elbows back into the hips to roll the solar plexus up and forward. Keep the big toes touching, and for a stronger posture, push the toes into the ground to engage your thighs. To release into the crocodile or resting pose, take the arms out ahead on an inhale and exhale, interlace fingers behind your back. Inhale, lift the hands and the feet up into the air for the snake pose, Savasana, and work on allowing the weight to stay in the hips. Keep drawing the hands back to inflate the chest and observe that you maintain a consistent breath. Crocodile pose to rest, exhale and inhale. And then on your next exhale, begin to bend your knees and slowly grab the hands onto the ankles or the outside blades of the feet. As you bring the toes towards each other, take an inhale and exhale, begin to kick the legs upwards and backwards to inflate the chest and lift your gaze. In this posture, you'll feel that the weight rolls forward into the solar plexus and upper belly due to the power of the legs kicking you forward. For your modification, keep the knees on the ground and work the ankles back to lift the chest. Breathe deeply and relax the gaze slightly down if need be. To release the pose, inhale, kick up and exhale, release down slowly forward onto the ground in crocodile position. Unraveling up to a seated position onto the knees, keep the chin tucked and slowly with the chin tucked unravel the spine up to a seated position. For Sirsasana, the camel pose, separate the knees hip width apart with the bum lifted off the heels. Place the hands into the lower back and inhale, lift your chest. As you exhale, push your pelvis forward. Your gaze is dropped back as you take one hand down at a time to grab onto your heels. Work the weight into the big toes as well as the knees. Inhale, lift the chest. Exhale, draw the pelvis forward and express length in the front of your body. A modification is to keep the hands on the lower back. Begin to tuck the toes under as you inhale, lift your chest and exhale, roll the gaze back with the hands staying on your lower back. When exiting the posture, place your hands onto the lower back. Inhale, come up with the head up last and slowly sit the buttocks back onto your heels. Take a couple of breaths to neutralize in a child's pose position, Balasana, relaxing the forehead softly onto the mat. Breathe into the back of the body or the areas that feel most affected by the backward bends. Coming through another Vinyasa, re-lengthen the spine on the inhale and allow yourself to just relax the gaze back on your exhale all the way back into downward dog. The crane pose, Bakasana, a strong arm balance. Coming into a squat, separate your toes out to the side and work the kneecaps into the armpits as a tongue and groove fitting. Spread the fingers with the hands underneath the shoulders. Drawing the weight forward, slowly lift the gaze slightly and begin to float the feet off of the ground. Get your big toes to touch and draw the lower abdominals up into the body. Jumping back for Chaturanga. A modification is to just lift one foot up and the other foot up after that. Note that the shin is in the back of the arm rather than the knee in the armpit. To come out, just slowly lower yourself down onto the feet before entering Chaturanga Dandasana. Coming into the forward bends, a great balance for your backward bends. You're going to jump through onto the bum for the seated cobbler's pose, Paschitmottanasana. Placing the soles of the feet together, grab the inside blades and draw your elbows into your hips. As you peel the feet open to draw the knees down, inhale, lengthen through the front spine and slowly lower yourself down with the chest coming towards the floor. Keep the chin lifted till the last moment to maintain an open chest. Modification is to simply come into the posture with the feet placed together as usual. Place the elbows into the thighs or possibly the knees if you cannot reach the hips, and come down, focusing on maintaining a straight front spine. For Utkatasana, open cobbler's pose, interlace middle index and thumb as you spread the feet out to the sides. Lengthen the front spine, draw back on the toes into the shins. For a modification, again bend the knees and grab on towards your ankles. Never worrying about how low you go down, but rather maintaining the shape of your spine. Keep the length through the lower spine as you inhale, draw up on your pelvic floor to lift up, and then unraveling one vertebrae at a time with the chin tucked to lie in the dead body pose, Savasana. For the lion twist, bend the right knee with the left hand on the outside of the thigh. Extend your right fingertips out like an aeroplane wing. Gazing towards the right hand as you drift the knee towards the left. Aim to keep the back of the right shoulder towards the floor. This will encourage the twist to travel up the full spine. Breathe into the posture and relax into the center once again, realigning the spine and legs. For the opposite side, bend the left knee and extend your left arm out. Don't worry too much about getting the knee onto the floor, but rather maintain the back of the left shoulder on the ground. This is your foundation. Breathe into the lower belly, stimulating energy release from your kidneys. Coming back into Shavasana to close the floor sequence. For the closing sequence, we begin with Savangasana, the shoulder stand, a wonderful inversion. Raising the body off of the ground, swiveling the shoulder blades into each other, and placing the hands into the lower back, ideally with the pinky fingers parallel on either side of your spine. Work towards getting the heels, hips and shoulders aligned. To modify shoulder stand, raise the legs, bend the knees with the palms flat on the ground and slowly curl the lower back off the ground with the palms pushing down. Take your hands into the bum rather than the lower back, and do not worry about straightening the whole body, but rather be bent to relax the shoulders. Now steady your gaze into the middle of the body as you come into the plow position, drawing the lower abdominals in and interlacing the fingers behind your back. Point your toes back and begin to lift the legs up into the ceiling. Your breath is deep and your efforts are relaxed. Keeping the gaze steady in the middle of the body towards the navel, coming into Kapalbhati, the deaf man's posture, bending the knees on either side of your ears and hug the knees into the shoulders. Begin to slowly interlace the fingers behind your back, palm suction cup as you work the hands down. A modification is to simply bend the knees with the hands staying on the lower back until the toes and knees begin to ground. Look into the navel, breathe and relax. To release Kapalbhati, the deaf man's posture, straighten the legs and take the hands into the lower back. Cross the legs into a lotus position or a simple cross-legged position that is manageable for you. Slowly unraveling the spine onto the floor, place the palms on the ground and lift the chest to create a lovely arch. Grab onto the fleshy part of the buttocks as you lift the chest and place the crown of the head onto the floor. And for the modification, simply just place the palms flat towards the ground, thumbs touching, and then lower the buttocks onto the hands. Once the buttocks is grounded onto the hands, lift your chest, squeeze the elbows in to inflate the chest up and forward, and then slowly lowering onto your elbows with your heels grounded and toes pointing forward. It's good to work on drawing the elbows down into the ground as well as the knees down into the ground to increase the lift of the solar plexus up to the ceiling. Adapt your breath and relax your gaze, letting the facial features remain nice and relaxed too. Releasing into the extension, get your big toes touching with your fingers and palms in prayer. Extend the fingers and toes forward as you aim to maintain the weight in the crown of the head. Slowly to release, push the elbows down, inhale, tuck the chin into the chest and lie back into the dead body pose, Shavasana. For Chakrasana, placing the palms underneath the shoulders firmly into the ground, roll over the back of the body with the gaze remaining straight down the middle. Go through your Chataranga as you inhale, lengthen the chest up, and exhale, push into your big toes to lift your lower belly back into down. We're going to enter the headstand. Dropping onto your knees, measure your distance by grabbing the hands onto the elbows, then interlace the fingers with the elbows remaining underneath your shoulders. Palms remain open as you place the crown of the head into the floor and the palms flat into the back of the skull. Walk the toes in with the legs remaining straight, and as the hips raise above your shoulders, push the elbows down and raise the legs slowly up with your core engaged. Observe, very importantly, that the shoulders remain lifted at all times to protect the neck. To modify, place the head into the floor and the palms. As you push into the elbows, lift your shoulders and start off with the knees on the ground. Lift the sit bones and slowly tuck the toes under and begin to straighten your legs. When you feel ready to walk the feet a little bit closer into the hands, do so becoming conscious of working the elbows down to keep the shoulders open and spread. Keep walking the feet in with the legs remaining straight, and when you cannot walk any further, lift the heels to lock into the core, and this is where you will stay for your modification. Stay here, breathe, observe the shoulders remain open, and keep engaging a lift of the lower belly. To release, simply place the knees back onto the ground and rest back into your child's pose, Balasana. Take a few breaths. To release from the full Sirsasana headstand, work the elbows down, engage the lower abdominal muscles, aiming to keep the legs straight or bend them if you need to. Control yourself down, maintaining a lift of the shoulders and avoiding dropping excessive weight into the head and neck. Once the toes lie on the ground, you can begin to allow yourself to come into Balasana, the child's pose, a very important posture after the headstand to help equalize the blood flow within the body and allow the brain to come back into a neutral state. Coming back in towards Chaturanga, as you inhale, lengthen up into upward dog, and exhale, draw yourself back into the homely posture of downward dog with the chin tucking back immediately. Jumping through onto the bum, take an inhale, exhale, bend the knees, and inhale, hop onto the buttocks. Keeping the chin tucked, unravel slowly back into Shavasana, your closing posture for today, and you will take some time here, as much time as you need, to rest, relax, and feel the release of the grip of the practice within the muscles and mind. To help you relax in Shavasana, observe on every exhale the front brain melting in towards the back brain. Coming into fetal position, bend your knees and roll over the full right hand side of the body to feel the body weight weighted and grounded heavily into the floor. Take some time here, and when you're ready, place the left palm into the ground and with the heavy head languidly come up to a seated position to close your practice. Get a comfortable position either on the knees or cross-legged. Place your palms to prayer, close your eyes, and sink your conscious weight and breath in towards your lower belly. You can finish off with 3 arms if you choose.
So